Everyone thinks medieval knights were rich: the armor, the horses, the castles. We picture them as warrior aristocrats living in luxury between battles. But if you actually run the numbers on what a knight earned and what things cost in medieval England, you discover something shocking. Most knights weren't rich at all. They were trapped in a financial system that kept them one disaster away from ruin. Today, we're going to do what almost nobody does: the actual math. What did a medieval knight really earn? What did his equipment cost? What could he buy with a year's income? And why was the whole system designed to keep him broke? The answers will change how you see medieval history. And if you pay attention, you'll see the same trap still exists today, just wearing different armor. Let's start with income. In England around the year 1250, a knight holding land directly from the crown, what they called a knight's fee, could expect to earn roughly £20 per year. Now, before you think that sounds tiny, understand that £20 was serious money. A common laborer made about £3 per year. A skilled craftsman might earn 6 or 7, so a knight was making 3 to 6 times what ordinary people earned. £20 in 1250 had the purchasing power of somewhere between $80,000 and $100,000 today. That sounds comfortable, right? Middle class, maybe upper middle class. But here's the first trick: that £20 wasn't cash. It was the estimated value of rents, crops, and labor from the knight's estate. Most of it never touched his hands. It came in as grain, chickens, services, and most of it was already spoken for. Because to be a knight, you had to act like a knight. You had to maintain a household, feed servants, keep horses, repair equipment. The system didn't just give you an income. It gave you an income with mandatory expenses already attached. Let me give you a real example. William Marshall, one of the most famous knights in English history, started with nothing. Literally landless. He fought in tournaments, served lords, and slowly built wealth through ransoms and royal favor. By the time he died, he was one of the richest men in England. But here's what most people miss. William Marshall was the exception. For every William Marshall, there were 100 knights like Roger of Leybourne, men who served loyally, fought bravely, and died owing money. The romantic story is rare. The debt trap was common. So, what did it cost to be a knight? Let's break it down, because this is where the math gets brutal. First, the warhorse, not just any horse, a destrier, the medieval tank. These animals were massive, trained for combat, worth more than most people would see in a lifetime. In the mid-13th century, a quality destrier cost between 80 and 100 pounds. That's 4 to 5 years of a knight's annual income. For one horse. Let me put that in perspective. If a common laborer earned £3 per year, that war horse cost what he'd make in 30 years. 30 years of wages for one animal. Think about that. You could work every single day from age 20 to age 50, and you still couldn't afford a knight's horse. Now the armor. A full set of mail armor, not even the later plate armor. Just chainmail, helmet, and padding, cost around £16. That's nearly a full year of income. Add a shield, sword, lance, and dagger, and you're looking at another £4 or £5. So before a knight ever rides into battle, he's already spent well over £100 just to look the part. And it gets worse. Because horses don't live forever. A war horse could die in battle, break a leg, get sick. Armor gets damaged, mail rings break, helmets dent, swords chip. A knight had to budget every year for repairs and replacements. Estimates suggest that maintaining a war horse cost £10 to £15 annually, just in feed and care. Add a squire to help with equipment, a groom for the horses, maybe a servant or two. That's another £5 to £8 per year. Run the numbers. If a knight earns £20 per year, and it costs £20 to £25 per year just to stay a knight, what's left? Nothing. Or worse than nothing, debt. This is the part history books skip over. The system wasn't designed to make knights wealthy. It was designed to keep them dependent. All right, let's imagine a knight somehow had his full £20 free and clear. No debts, no obligations, pure purchasing power. What could he buy? In 1250, a loaf of bread cost about 1 penny. There were 240 pennies in a pound, so £20 could buy 4,800 loaves of bread, enough to feed a family for years. A chicken cost about 2 or 3 pence, so £20 could buy 1,600 chickens. A pig cost 3 shillings, that's 36 pence. £20 could buy over 100 pigs. A cow cost around 10 shillings, so £20 bought 40 cows. Here's a strange one. A decent house for a peasant family cost about £2 to £3 to build. £20 could buy 6 or 7 houses. But remember what we said about the war horse? £20 couldn't even buy one. A knight's annual income couldn't replace his primary piece of equipment. That's the trap. Let me tell you a story that makes this real. In 1217, during one of the endless wars between England and France, a knight named Robert de Vere rode into battle. He was loyal, experienced, well regarded. And during the fight, his destrier took an arrow to the chest and died. One arrow. One dead horse. And Robert de Vere's financial life collapsed. He couldn't afford a new warhorse. His income wouldn't cover it. So he did what many knights did. He borrowed. He went to a monastery and took a loan at interest. It took him 3 years to repay. 3 years of living under debt. 3 years of his income going to cover one bad day. That's the reality nobody talks about. Knights didn't live in safety. They lived in financial fear. One injury, one dead horse, one bad harvest, and the whole illusion crumbled. Here's another story. Quieter, but just as telling. Most knights never bought new armor. They inherited it. A son wore his father's mail, his grandfather's helmet. You know why? Because new armor cost a full year's income, and most families couldn't afford to buy it twice in a generation. If you were taller than your father, if your body didn't fit the old mail, too bad. You went to war in armor that pinched, that didn't protect right, because buying new simply wasn't an option. And then there's the marriage strategy. The smartest financial move a knight could make wasn't winning a battle or earning the king's favor. It was marrying a wealthy widow. Widows with land, widows with income, widows who could stabilize a knight's finances. William Marshall did it. Dozens of others did too. Because one strategic marriage brought more wealth than 10 years of loyal service. This wasn't romance. It was survival economics. Now here's where it gets truly dark, because once you see the pattern, you realize this wasn't an accident. The system was designed to work exactly this way. Here's how the trap worked. To be a knight, you needed land. Land came with obligations to a lord or the king, military service, usually 40 days per year. But to fulfill that military service, you needed expensive equipment. Equipment that cost more than your land income provided. So you stayed dependent on your lord for additional payments, for gifts, for opportunities to earn extra income through ransoms or rewards. And that dependence kept you loyal. A knight who could afford to walk away was dangerous. A knight who needed his lord to survive was controllable. It's the same trick employers use today. Pay people just enough to stay, but not enough to leave. Keep them dependent. Keep them working. Medieval lords invented the debt trap long before credit cards. So who actually profited from this system? Not the knights. The kings and great lords profited because they got loyal warriors without having to pay them properly. The armorers and weaponsmiths profited because they held a monopoly on essential goods that knights had to buy. The church profited because monasteries lent money at interest to desperate knights, and the merchants profited by selling luxuries on credit to men trying to maintain appearances. Everyone extracted value from the knight, and the knight, despite his status and his title, was the one left holding the bill. Before you think this is just medieval history with no relevance to your life, look around. How many people today earn what sounds like a good salary but live paycheck to paycheck? How many are one medical emergency, one car breakdown, one unexpected expense away from financial disaster? The mechanisms are different. We don't have destriers and mail armor. We have car payments and health insurance and student loans. But the trap is the same. You earn just enough to survive, but the mandatory costs of participating in the system eat everything you make. And the people at the top, the ones selling you the car, the insurance, the education, they're the ones who profit while you tread water. A medieval knight spent 4 years of income on a warhorse he might lose in a single battle. How many years of income do people spend today on a college degree that might not even lead to a stable job? The scale changes. The trap doesn't. History doesn't just tell us what happened. It shows us what never stopped happening. So, what could a medieval knight's salary actually buy? The answer is not much. His 20 pounds per year looked impressive compared to a peasant's 3 pounds. But once you subtract the mandatory costs of being a knight, the horse, the armor, the maintenance, the servants, most of that income evaporated. A knight could buy hundreds of chickens or dozens of cows with his annual salary. But he couldn't replace his warhorse. He couldn't afford new armor. He couldn't save for emergencies. He was, despite his status and his title, trapped in a system designed to keep him financially dependent and therefore loyal. The romantic image of the wealthy knight is a lie we tell ourselves because the truth is uncomfortable. Knights were the medieval middle class, pressured from above by lords who demanded service, and pressured from below by costs that never stopped rising. Most lived in debt. Most died in debt. And the few who escaped Men like William Marshall did so through luck, marriage, or ruthless opportunism, not through the system working as intended. The lesson isn't just about medieval economics. It's about every system that promises you security while quietly extracting everything you earn. The trap hasn't gone anywhere. It just wears different armor now. History doesn't repeat, but if you don't understand it, it will crush you all the same. If this changed how you see medieval history or modern economics, hit subscribe. History has the answers. I'll show you where to look.